You're loved, you're liked, you're seen, but somehow you still feel invisible. You laugh in conversations. You get the late night texts. You even get, "I miss you." And yet, deep down, there's a quiet emptiness you can't explain. Because modern love has changed. It's no longer about understanding. It's about presentation. We don't connect. We perform. We sell the best version of ourselves, hoping someone buys it. We've replaced emotional intimacy with highlight reels, swipes instead of commitment, likes instead of love, memes instead of meaning. You go on a date, but both of you are half checked out, already thinking about who else is out there. Because real presence, that's rare now. And what's even rarer is someone looking at you without expectations, without judgment, without needing you to impress them. In this video, I'm not just talking about relationships. I'm breaking down the illusion of connection we've all been trapped in, why we feel starved in a world full of love, why attention doesn't equal intimacy, and how the people around you can adore your surface while never touching your soul. So stay with me, because what you're about to realize might change the way you see every relationship you've ever had. This isn't about blame, it's about awakening. Because if you've ever felt alone in someone else's arms, you're not broken. You're just tired of pretending that shallow love is enough. There's a reason chaos feels like love and peace feels like boredom. Most people don't fall in love with who's good for them. They fall in love with who feels familiar. And what feels familiar is the wound they've been carrying since childhood. You don't crave love. You crave intensity, the butterflies, the chase, the unpredictable texts, the emotional roller coaster. Because deep down, you've mistaken emotional hunger for connection, and no one taught you the difference. When you grow up, emotionally neglected or abandoned, love doesn't feel safe. It feels like proving your worth. It feels like earning someone's attention. It feels like chasing someone who keeps slipping away. So you confuse anxiety with attraction. You think, if I feel this much chaos, it must be real. But that's not love. That's a nervous system stuck in survival mode. Real love is calm, secure, safe. But when you're used to emotional starvation, safety feels suspicious. You reject the healthy ones and run back to the ones who hurt you, because in a twisted way, their chaos mirrors the instability you grew up with. And here's the brutal truth. If you've never been emotionally fed, you'll mistake anything for nourishment. That's why you stay with the person who confuses you. That's why you obsess over the one who gives just enough to keep you hooked. Because it's not about love anymore. It's about survival. And survival doesn't choose what's best. It chooses what's familiar. You say you want real love. You say you want someone who gets you, someone who stays. But when that kind of love shows up, you flinch. You start pulling away. You overthink their texts. You pick fights for no reason. You create distance and call it space. Why? Because being loved without performing feels terrifying. When you've only known love as a reward, you're not scared of rejection. You're scared of being seen. Because if someone truly saw your insecurities, your darkness, your contradictions, what if they left? So you hide behind independence, behind detachment, behind the sentence, "I don't need anyone." But here's the truth most people won't admit. Hyper-independence is just self-protection in disguise. It's a mask you built when connection became dangerous. You learned that being vulnerable got you hurt. So now, even when love knocks, you don't answer. You ghost before they get too close. You build walls and call them standards. But loneliness and solitude isn't the worst kind. It's the loneliness in love that cuts deepest. The kind where someone lies next to you, but your soul still feels untouched. You want to be held, but only if it costs you nothing. No risk, no exposure, no surrender. But love doesn't work like that. You can't numb the pain without numbing the joy too. And until you let someone see all of you, not just the curated parts, you'll keep wondering why love always leaves you feeling alone. You post, they like, you share, they respond, but deep down, it still feels empty because we've mistaken attention for affection and exposure for intimacy. Social media didn't just change how we connect, it changed what we expect from connection. Now we show our struggles through filters. We confess our pain in carefully worded captions. We measure love in comments, views, and fire emojis. We're constantly performing, even when we're trying to be real. And here's the trap. The more you reveal, the more you feel unseen, because people aren't responding to you. They're responding to your performance. They're clapping for your image, not holding space for your truth. We've created a world where vulnerability is content, not connection, where healing becomes a trend and trauma is aesthetic. And somewhere along the way, You stopped speaking from your soul and started crafting captions that land. But here's what no algorithm can give you: presence, stillness, the quiet understanding of someone who listens without scrolling, who sees without judging, who holds your silence without needing to post it. We've become so available to everyone that we've become intimate with no one, and in the loud noise of constant interaction, the soft language of true emotion gets lost. You're not crazy for feeling disconnected. You're just trying to find something real in a world that profits off pretending. Love doesn't just happen in the heart. It's wired in the nervous system. Your patterns in relationships, they aren't random. They're echoes of the first love you ever knew, the one you had with your caregivers. If love felt conditional growing up, you learned to chase. If closeness felt overwhelming, you learn to run. This is where attachment styles are born, and they quietly shape every relationship you enter. If you're anxious, you fear abandonment. You overthink every silence. You read between every line, and you confuse someone, pulling away with you not being enough. If you're avoidant, you fear enmeshment. You crave connection. But as soon as it gets too close, you detach. You ghost. You push them away before they can see your weakness. And if you're disorganized, you swing between both, wanting love, fearing it, clinging one moment, withdrawing the next. And here's what makes it harder. You're not attracted to what's healthy. You're drawn to what's familiar. So if chaos was your first love, calm will feel foreign. If rejection was normal, acceptance will feel suspicious. This is why the secure partner feels boring. They don't trigger your fear. They don't create anxiety. They offer peace. But your nervous system doesn't know what to do with it. So you chase the ones who activate your wounds, not because you want pain, but because you want to fix the pain through them. It's not love, it's a reenactment, a subconscious attempt to rewrite the ending of a story that started long before them. But healing starts when you stop letting your past pick your partners. Sometimes you're not in love with the person, you're in love with the idea of them. You're not seeing them, you're seeing a story, one your mind created to escape the pain you've been carrying for years. We all project. We meet someone who gives us a spark, and we turn that spark into a fire. Not because they're perfect, but because we're desperate for meaning, for rescue, for redemption. So, we fill in the blanks, we ignore the red flags, we romanticize the silence. We say things like, they're just complicated, when really, they're just unavailable. You turn the attention they give you into evidence of fate. You treat their inconsistency as a test you must pass. And suddenly, your worth becomes tied to how well you can win them. But here's the truth. You don't want them. You want the feeling they temporarily give you. The high, the validation, the sense that you matter. It's not love. It's escape. You fall for their potential. You stay for the fantasy. And in doing so, you abandon reality. You abandon yourself, because real love doesn't need illusions. It requires presence. It sees the flaws and stays grounded. It doesn't demand a fairy tale. It builds something real. But fantasy is easier. It lets you avoid the risk. The slow, awkward, vulnerable building that real intimacy requires. So ask yourself, are you in love, or are you just lonely, projecting a dream onto someone who was never meant to carry it? Never meant. You think you're choosing who to love, but sometimes it's your wound choosing, not your heart, not your values, just your pain, reaching out for something familiar. Abandonment isn't just about someone walking away. It's about what that absence taught you, that you're not enough, that love is earned, that presence is temporary. And when those wounds go unhealed, they don't stay in the past. They leak into every relationship you build. You start chasing people who pull away because their silence reminds you of the love you couldn't hold on to. You confuse neglect with passion because your nervous system was wired to believe love hurts. You become addicted to people who trigger your fear of being left, because deep down, you're trying to rewrite the original abandonment to finally be chosen by the one who never chose you. So even when someone shows up with real love, you sabotage it. Not because you don't want it, but because you don't believe you're worthy of it. Because the moment it gets real, the fear screams louder. They'll leave too. And here's the cruel irony. You replay the pain, hoping this time it ends differently. But it doesn't, because you're not healing the wound. You're feeding it. Until you confront the source, not the symptoms, you'll keep choosing partners who mirror the parent that failed you. Healing doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means no longer letting it control who you love, how you love, and what you settle for. Desire doesn't live in closeness. It lives in the space between. That's what Esther Perel teaches us, and most people misunderstand it. We think love should be total fusion. Two people merging into one, always together, always available, always us. But desire doesn't grow in suffocation. It grows in mystery, in distance, in seeing the other person as separate, not an extension of you. That's the paradox. The more you cling, the more desire dies. In the beginning, there's room to imagine, room to fantasize, room to long for the other person. But over time, when every text is answered instantly, when every moment is spent side by side, the space where desire once lived begins to shrink. Because desire needs tension, it needs uncertainty, it needs the thrill of reaching for someone who isn't fully yours. That's why people in long-term relationships often feel stuck. They love their partner, but the spark feels gone. Not because the love died, but because the space died. You stopped seeing each other as individuals. You stopped being curious. You became predictable, and without space, there's no mystery. And without mystery, there's no eroticism. Esther Perel says fire needs air, desire needs distance, not separation, but sovereignty. So if you want desire to stay alive, don't aim for total possession. Aim for presence with boundaries, for love that breathes, for connection that honors independence. Because sometimes the sexiest thing about someone is not how much they need you, but how whole they are without you. You say you want peace. You say you're done with drama. But when someone finally gives you calm, you call it boring. You feel restless, unseen, unmoved. Why? Because chaos was your first language. It's what you grew up with, the tension, the unpredictability, the feeling that love was always on the edge of leaving. When that's your blueprint, peace doesn't feel safe. It feels dull. It doesn't activate your nervous system. It doesn't give you highs and lows. It just sits there, stable, consistent, real. And your brain says, this can't be love. It doesn't hurt. So you sabotage it. You start overthinking. You create problems. You poke the calm just to see if it will explode, because somewhere deep inside, you believe love means intensity, and intensity means risk. You're not addicted to passion. You're addicted to the chemistry of survival, the adrenaline of unpredictability, the emotional whiplash that reminds you you're alive. But here's the trap. That chaos feels exciting because it mirrors the dysfunction you never healed from. So when someone shows up and doesn't play games, and doesn't pull away, and actually cares, you don't know what to do with them. You call them too nice. You say there's no spark, but what you really mean is they don't make your trauma feel familiar. And that's not love's failure. That's healing's invitation. The truth is, peace feels boring only when pain has been your home. I just need space. It sounds reasonable, respectful, even mature, but sometimes it's not space you need. It's distance you're creating because closeness feels unsafe. This is the hidden truth most people never face. When someone gets too close to your emotional truth, your instinct isn't to open up. It's to pull back, to find a reason to disappear, to reclaim control. You say, I'm overwhelmed, but what you really mean is, I don't know how to stay when it feels this real. Because real love demands presence. It sees your fears. It notices your silence. It calls out the parts of you that want to run, and that's terrifying. So you say you need time. You need to figure things out. But what you're actually doing is avoiding vulnerability. You're afraid that if someone stays close enough, they'll see the cracks, the insecurity, the fear of being not enough. So you create emotional distance and call it independence. But there's a difference between needing space and building walls. Space is sacred when it's rooted in connection, but when it's used to avoid intimacy, it becomes isolation dressed as self-care. The more you do this, the more you teach your nervous system that love means disappearing, that the moment things get too deep, you need to retreat and you end up alone, not because no one tried to love you, but because you never let them stay. The next time you feel the urge to pull away, ask yourself, is this boundary or is this fear? Because sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is not create space, but hold it. You say you don't need anyone, that you're good on your own, that love is a luxury, not a necessity. But let's be honest, that wasn't strength you learned. It was survival. Hyper-independence is not a personality trait. It's a defense mechanism. It's what happens when being vulnerable meant being hurt, when needing someone meant being disappointed, when asking for help meant being ignored. So you adapted. You stopped reaching out. You became your own everything. And now you're the strong one, the reliable one, the one who never breaks down, at least not where anyone can see it. But behind that strength is exhaustion, a deep, aching loneliness that you've taught yourself to hide. You pride yourself on not needing anyone, but you ache for someone who gets you without you having to ask. You want closeness, but only on your terms, only when it doesn't threaten your sense of control. Because somewhere deep inside, you believe that needing is weak, that depending is dangerous, that letting someone in means giving them the power to hurt you. But here's the truth. You're not protecting yourself. You're isolating yourself. Love requires risk. Connection requires surrender, not total dependence, but the courage to admit, I can't do this alone. You weren't meant to carry everything by yourself, and you're not broken for craving softness after building so many walls. Healing begins when you stop wearing your strength like armor, when you realize that real power isn't in never needing anyone. It's in choosing the right ones to need. You don't chase them because they're good for you. You chase them because they feel familiar. The one who's hot and cold. The one who gives you just enough to stay, but never enough to feel safe. The one who triggers your deepest insecurities. And somehow, you can't let them go. Why? Because your nervous system isn't looking for peace. It's looking for what it knows. And if pain was part of your early love, you'll associate love with pain. You'll confuse tension with chemistry. You'll call anxiety butterflies, and you'll mistake emotional neglect for strength. This is what psychologists call repetition compulsion, the unconscious urge to recreate old wounds, hoping for a different ending. You're not weak for wanting them. You're wounded, and your brain believes that if you can finally win the love of someone who hurts you, you'll heal the part of you that still feels unworthy. But it never works, because you're trying to solve the past with people who resemble it. So you chase their approval. You silence your needs. You abandon your boundaries, and every time they pull away, you blame yourself. You think, if I were enough, they'd stay. But they're not staying because they were never capable of giving you what you needed. You're not too much. You're just giving too much to someone who gives too little. And the longer you stay, the more you reinforce the belief that love is earned through pain. But real love doesn't feel like survival. It feels like home. Healing begins the moment you stop chasing the fire and start walking toward the warmth. You think vulnerability is a one-time act, that it's some dramatic confession, a moment of courage followed by relief. But real vulnerability isn't a moment. It's a practice. It's the quiet decision you make every day to let someone see you without the armor. It's not about dumping your trauma on the table. It's about being honest in the small moments, saying, I'm feeling distant today. I'm scared I'm not enough. I want to be close, but I don't know how. That kind of honesty? It's terrifying because we've been taught that strong means silent, that real love means never being a burden. But that's not strength, that's survival. And survival is lonely. To practice vulnerability is to trust that the right people won't leave when you show them your messy parts. It's about letting go of control and letting connection be mutual, not managed. It's risking rejection, not for drama, but for truth. Because when you stay silent, you protect your image, but you starve your soul. You end up surrounded by people who love your mask but don't even know your face. So yes, vulnerability might push some people away, but those are the people who were never meant to stay. And the ones who are meant for you, they don't want perfection. They want presence. Let them meet the real you, not the polished you, not the curated you, the you that's human, flawed, software brave enough to be seen. You can love someone deeply without disappearing inside them. But most of us were never taught how. We confuse love with sacrifice. We think devotion means self-erasure. And we carry this quiet fear that if we don't give everything, they'll leave. So we bend, we shrink, we tolerate, we lose our voice just to keep their presence. And over time, you stop recognizing yourself, not because they took too much, but because you gave it away, piece by piece, hoping it would be enough. That's not love. That's abandonment. And this time, you're doing it to yourself. Real love doesn't ask you to choose between connection and identity. It creates space for both. It honors your needs, your limits, your individuality. It doesn't demand silence for harmony. It doesn't treat boundaries as rejection. It doesn't punish you for saying, This doesn't feel right. Loving someone without losing yourself requires the hardest thing of all, self-trust, the belief that you can be loved as you are, without performing, without shrinking, without breaking yourself into a version that's easier to love. So stop apologizing for having needs. Stop calling it love when it's just fear in disguise. Because love that costs you is too expensive. You don't need to disappear to be held. You don't need to bleed just to be seen. The right love will never ask you to vanish. You've been searching for something, a feeling, a person, a moment that would finally make you feel full. But no matter how many people love you, you still feel a quiet emptiness, a hunger. That connection never seems to satisfy. That's because what you're starving for is you, the part of you that was silenced, the part of you that was never chosen, the part of you that learned to perform instead of feel, to chase instead of rest, to survive instead of live. But here's the truth no one tells you. You don't become whole by finding someone else. You become whole by finally coming back to yourself, by seeing your wounds and choosing to heal them, not through another person, but through presence, through honesty, through love that starts within. The emptiness you feel isn't a flaw. It's a signal, a soft aching call to return to the parts of you abandoned just to be loved. So stop running. Stop chasing ghosts of what could have been. Stop offering your soul to people who can't hold it. Sit with yourself. Listen to your needs. Hold your own hand the way no one ever did. Because the journey isn't from one lover to another. It's from avoidance to awareness, from pretending to presence, from hollow to whole. And once you become whole, you'll stop mistaking survival for love. You'll stop asking others to complete you. You'll realize you were never broken, just disconnected. And from that place of fullness, you'll give love not to get filled, but because you already are.